Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you a quick graphing calculator tip for how to factor a trinomial that is in the ax squared plus bx plus c form where that lead term a is going to be equal to 1. And so here's an example of what one of those problems would look like. I have x squared plus 11x plus 24, and we're going to factor this in a second. But before we do, I want to tell everybody that in this video I am going to be using the TI-84 Plus to solve this problem. You can use any other graphing calculator that you may have as long as it has the same functions that I'm going to use. I'm going to talk about that in the next clip too. So anyways, here's the math. X squared plus 11x plus 24. The phrase that I want you to remember as we go through this, I'll probably say it several times today, is that we want factors of the last that add up to the middle. And what I mean by that is this. We're going to look at factors of the last term. Now, the last term in our problem is 24. So factors of 24 that add up to the middle, and the middle is 11. So it's the coefficient on that x. So our target is 11 for them to add up to. And another thing I want to point out and just highlight again is that this only works if that lead term is a 1. And normally we don't see the 1 there, but if it's anything other than the 1, this will not work. It only works if a is equal to 1. So I'm going to take that back off because we normally don't see it. Now let's talk about the graphing calculator at the bottom. The two functions, or the two buttons that I'm going to be using today, is going to be the y-editor button, and I'm going to enter in two equations in my y-editor. And then the other button that I'm going to use is the graph button. And specifically, I'm going to use the second function of that graph button, and that is the table. So let's get our calculators booted up and let's get going on this. So our problem is x squared plus 11x plus 24. And here's that phrase that I said I'm going to repeat several times today. It's factors of the last that add up to the middle. So we're going to focus on the first part of this phrase where it says factors of the last. And so we look at 24, and we're going to use our calculator to produce a list of those factors of 24. And this is how you do it. So I go to the y equals, and in there I'm going to put in 24. I'm going to divide it by x. And that actually creates the fraction 24 over x. Okay? So we have that in, and now to look at the factors, all I have to do after I have that equation in is I just go second, and I hit my graph button, and again, I'm using that table function. The second function of graph is table, and then it produces this table. And you'll see that this very quickly produces all the factors of 24, because what's 24 divided by 0? Well, that's an error. What's 24 divided by 1? That's 24. What's 24 divided by 2? That's 12. What's 24 divided by 3? That's 8, so on and so forth. I'm not going to read through them all. But we will have a complete list of factors of 24. And sometimes you may need to go down, use your arrow button, and arrow down to see other factors. And if you want to get into the negative numbers, arrow up, and they're producing negative factors too. So all the factors of 24 that we are going to need are right there. And the only other thing I want to mention before I move on to the next thing is that if you have a number that produces a decimal, that number is not a factor of 24. We're only going to use the ones that come out as whole numbers. So awesome. So the next thing I want to do is I want to focus on the next part of the phrase that adds up to the middle. So our target is 11. We want these numbers in here to add up to 11. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back to my y-editor, and I'm going to enter in another equation. Now, what do I want? Well, if I look back at the table, what I need is I need my x column to add up with this y1 column. And so if I go back to the y-editor, I'm going to take my x column, and then that y1 column, we have that equation 24 over x. And so this is what I'm going to put in my y2. It's just x plus 24 over x. So I go down, oops, I don't want to go down there. I want to go down over here, and I'm just going to put in x plus, and I like to keep my fractions in parentheses. So I'm going to put 24 divided by x. So I have this in there, and so I go back to my table, And now I'm looking for, in my y2 column, because remember the y2 column brought this whole sum here, x plus 24 over x. I'm looking for 11. And so I go over to my y2, I'm looking down, the first one's 25, 14, 11. There you go. So this row right here tells me what I need to know. Factors of 24 that add up to the middle, which is 11. So the factors are 8 and 3, or 3 and 8. So when I go to factor this, I'm going to get my pen out now. All right. Sorry about that. I am just going to go like this. So I got to do factors of x squared, which is x times x. But then you pay attention to the signs. It's a positive 3 and a positive 8. So it's going to be addition of 3 and an addition of 8. And so that is how you can use your TI or your any type of graphing calculator that has these functions to factor a trinomial just like that. In the next clip, I'm going to practice it with some subtraction in our problem. All right, so let's do this problem with the subtraction in it, and I also put another one down here for us to do at the end. So I copied over some notes from the last slide, and that phrase, factors of the last that add up to the middle, and I also copied down the equation that we use, or the expression that we used in our y2. So let's look at our last term. It is a subtraction of 32. We're going to treat this as a negative 32. So that's what I will put in here when I go to change this 24. So I'm going to change that 24, because remember that was from the last problem. So I'm going to change it to negative 32. So our new y2, when we go to put this into a calculator, would be x plus negative 32 over x. But don't forget about your y1. Remember, the y1 produced the factors of negative 32. So let's put that in there first. So it's negative 32 divided by x. So remember, that produces the factors. Now, what's going to add those factors together? Well, if I take my x column and I add it to my y1 column, which remember, I just put this in my y1. So let's put that expression in. So x, we're going to do x plus, and I'm going to use parentheses around my fraction, negative 32. Now make sure you use the negative and not subtraction. You'll get an error if you do that. So negative 32 divided by x. All right, so let's go to our table now. Remember, the table is the second function of the graph one. So second graph. Oh, we got an error here. Oh, I just did what I told you not to do. Make sure you put a negative and not the subtraction sign in. So there you go. That's what's going to happen if you don't use the correct symbol here. So let's go to our table now. And let's look for our target. Our target is negative 14. Remember, factors are the last that add up to the middle. And we want them to add up to negative 14. And look at that. Third row down. They're adding up to negative 14. And you know, I can still go up and look up here if I needed to, or I could go down further down here and look if I needed to. Because not all the time will it appear right there for you. You may have to go searching for it. But we have it right here. So it's going to be 2 and negative 16. So I'm going to get my pen out. And we're going to just factor this right now. So we get our two sets of parentheses. And so our answer for this problem, if I were to factor it, x and x give me the x squared in the front, and then the negative 16, or wait, positive 2, let's do that first. Positive 2 and the negative 16 multiply out to that last term of negative 32, but when you add them together, come out to be negative 14. And that's that. All right, so let's quickly try this problem at the bottom. And so I'm not going to mess around with any notes up here, but remember, factors of the last that add up to the middle. The last term that we have right here is negative 64. Even though it's a subtraction, 64, we're going to treat it as a negative. So I'm just going to go to my y equals, and I'm just going to switch that negative 32 to a negative 64. And switch that one, and make sure you switch the second one. And then we should be all ready to go. So I'm going to go to the table again. Remember, it's the second function of the graph button. And I'm looking for a sum of 12. Well, if you'll go down here with positive 4, I have negative 12. I want a positive 12, though. So I'm going to go up. All right, see, I'm into the positives now up here. So remember the last clip I told you we have to search for? Oh, there it is. You may have to go searching for it. So we needed to search for this one. And so our factors that we're going to need is -4 and +16. So get my pen out. And I am just going to write down my 2 sets of parentheses to factor this. And x and x, like I said, gives me that x squared in the front. And then the -4. And actually, it's a subtraction of 4. And the +16, which is an addition of 16. So you will find me saying that up here, this is a -4, but when I put it down here, this is a subtraction of 4. Okay, it's very important that you know the difference between the two, or just realize it. But anyways, this is our answer. We have x minus 4 times x plus 16. I hope what I showed you with the graphing calculator today will help you factor those trinomials with the lead term being a 1. And if you'd like to practice some more problems that you saw in the video today, you can go to our website. I have a link right down in the description below that will hook you up with a web page that just shows you a bunch of those problems, and you can click on a button that shows you the answers to check your answers. And if you wouldn't mind, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with your friends.